Hi, Daddy.
Hi, how you doing?
It's been a while since I've told you a horror story. Let's see, what should I do?
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Is that the one where the guy had knives for fingers?
Yeah, Freddy Krueger.
1, 2, Freddy's coming for you.
Okay, let's do it.
So it starts off with this girl Tina, running like a penguin through a wet tunnel in her nightgown. She gets scared by a lamb,
I almost died.
and then runs into a boiler room. She then sees a guy with knives for fingers, so she slowly jogs to a dead end. She thinks the guy goes to chase the lamb, but then he jumps up behind her, and she wakes up. Her raccoon mom comes in and tells her that it's okay to have nightmares, as long as she cuts her fingernails, because she ripped her nightgown.
So you gotta stop that kind of dreaming.
The next morning, she meets up with her friends Nancy and Glenn, and tells them how she couldn't go back to sleep last night, but not about how her dream ruined her pajamas. She asks them to spend the night because she's afraid to sleep, because no one can have nightmares if they're with friends.
I've got something better.
The girls figure out that they dreamed about the same thing last night.
What'd you dream?
Was it a dream where you see yourself standing in sort of sun god robes on a pyramid with 1,000 naked women screaming and throwing little pickles at you?
That's impossible.
Why am I the only person that has that dream?
And then they hear a sound outside. They use Glenn as a human shield to investigate, but he realizes that he needs his arms to defend himself, so he goes alone. Turns out, it was just Tina's boyfriend Rod, and he's there to make up with her, so he starts his apology by scaring the shit out of her.
I had a hard-on this morning when I woke up, Tina.
And because he made the effort of showing up unannounced, she must have accepted his apology, and they go, makeup. They go to bed, and Tina wakes up when some rocks are being thrown at her window. She hears someone creepily whisper her name. Tina! So she goes outside, wearing only a shirt to see who it is.
There's something out there, isn't there?
She goes out to the alley, where the guy with knives for fingers wants a hug.
Oh, he's nuts about you.
nuts.
And this makes her forget where she lives, and tries running down the alley, while he chases her, looking like a toddler with a full diaper.
Oh, you shit.
But he's down that way too, and finally she's like, oh, there's my house. She runs for the back door, but the guy says her name, so she politely stops to see what he wants.
Oh, what's that?
He wants to show her him cutting his fingers off.
Intense, huh?
And after a very delayed reaction, she realizes that he might do this to her too, so she starts running again. But she can't get in the house, so they end up fighting in the trash. Her raccoon mom must sleep outside occasionally because she grabs a perfectly clean blanket and pulls it over her, and that's when we find out she's dreaming.
No duh.
Rod tries to wake her up, but she gets cut and rolls onto the ceiling. And at this point, he realizes he's too short to reach her and just lets her die. But then he says he'll avenge her
I'll kill you!
and runs out the window.
No problem, Tina. Nancy and Glenn do the rescue.
Nancy's dad is a cop, but is more concerned that she had a sleepover with boys than, the murder.
But I sure would like to know what the hell you were doing shacking up with 3 other kids in the middle of the night.
So what's going on here, an orgy or something?
The next morning, her mom makes breakfast and then wonders why she's going to school, which is a perfectly normal question to ask someone who just witnessed their best friend get killed. But why is her mom going to work when she thinks she's staying home and there's a killer on the loose?
Maybe you don't think murder is serious.
Nancy heads to school, where she gets pulled into a bush by Rod. Her dad shows up to catch Rod, and we find out that he was using her as bait, but then he questions why she was even bait to begin with.
You use me.
What the hell were you doing going to school today for anyway?
So after both parents tell her she shouldn't be going to school, she goes to class, where she falls asleep due to this kid's monotone voice.
In the most high and palmy state of Rome.
And she looks over to see Tina in a body bag. And apparently this is just something Tina does, because she follows the body bag down the hall thinking she still might be alive.
Tina?
She even runs into someone with knives for fingers, and she's like, not now, buddy. I gotta find my friend. And then she follows the trail of way too much blood down to the boiler room to look for Tina.
Tina?
But the burnt dude with knives for fingers is down there, and slowly chases her to a dead end.
Come to Freddy.
She knows she's dreaming now. So she burns herself with one of the steam pipes to wake herself up, and she gets super embarrassed and goes home.
You'll need a hall pass.
Screw your face.
And she actually burns herself in real life, but she doesn't feel it until she gets outside. She then goes to see Rod to get his side of the story.
Don't look at me like I'm some fucking fruitcake or something.
Nancy was able to piece together that this was the guy from their dreams, but Rod doesn't, even though he's having the same nightmares.
It was as if there were 4 razors cutting at the same time. But I thought it was just another nightmare. There was this guy. He had knives for fingers. Hey, you think I did it?
So to relax, Nancy goes home to take an uncomfortable bath, and Freddy wants to help, but her mom interrupts and tells her not to fall asleep.
You could drown, you know.
And her mom also believes this to be a tub slip scream.
I just slipped getting out of the tub.
when she really just got pulled into the deep end of her bathtub.
There's something wrong with you. You're imagining things.
She takes some caffeine pills to try to stay awake, then she randomly opens her window, and her boyfriend just happens to be outside.
Do you believe in the boogeyman?
No.
Well, you should.
She asks him to watch her sleep and wake her up if she has a nightmare.
Didn't she just take a caffeine pill?
Shut up. It might just take a while to kick in.
Incredible body hocus pocus.
In her dream, she goes to check on Rod, but gets a better sense that Tina might actually be dead.
See, I told you you'd be feeling better.
And then Freddy jumps out of a bush and chases her. She throws a trash can, not in his way, but he acts like it is. When she gets home, she yells for Glenn to wake her back up, but he fell asleep too.
You bastard.
Freddy attacks her, but her alarm wakes her up. So now she thinks Rod's in danger because she saw Freddy with him. So her and Glenn, the witnesses to a murder investigation, ask to see the suspect, and the cops are like, okay. Freddy's down there, making it look like Rod hung himself. So they need to hurry, but the desk sergeant can't find his keys.
The keys! Oh, the keys!
They see Rod kicking from the window, but he's dead by the time they get the door open. And it's not worth trying CPR on a potential killer.
Especially a lunatic delinquent like Lane.
Now there was a snap, but his neck wouldn't have been broken without a fall.
They're gonna kill me for sure.
Nobody's gonna kill you.
At Rod's funeral, even the priest thinks he killed Tina.
But he who lives by the sword shall die by the sword.
Hey, up yours with a twirling lawnmower.
And may Rod Lane rest in peace.
So I'm guessing Tina didn't get a funeral, and that's probably not helping Nancy with her Tina's still alive theory.
How can you say I don't take her death seriously?
Her dad wants her to stay home and get over it, but her mom takes her to a sleep doctor. You know, because it's probably something medical instead of her just witnessing two people die. And they must bury people real quick in this town, because this is apparently only the third day she's been awake. She has a nightmare where she wakes up with a rogue streak in her hair,
I kinda like it.
a cut on her arm, and Freddy's hat. Well, Nancy hopes that her dad will have the boys at the crime lab analyze the hat for something, but her mom says that she threw it away. Then Nancy pulls it out of the top drawer, and she reads the name written on the tag, and her mom gets cold. Marge says Fred's dead, and Nancy gets mad that she didn't tell her that she knew who he was, but this is the first time she's heard the name. Was she supposed to know from the description of the clothes?
And he wears a weird hat and a red and green sweater, really dirty. And he uses these knives.
She goes to meet with Glenn, where he tells her that some cultures defeat nightmares by turning your back on the monster and telling them that they don't scare you. Which she kinda already did.
This is just a dream. He isn't real.
But she likes her idea of setting up booby traps better.
This is my house. I have to defend it.
She goes home to find bars on all her windows. And her drunk mom wants to take her down to the basement.
I've heated up some warm milk for you, honey.
She reveals that they have to wear sweaters in the house all the time because she won't turn on the heater because that's where she keeps her murder trophies.
He's dead, honey, because Mommy killed him.
That's right, she killed Freddy and kept his finger knives.
I threw that filthy thing away.
Nancy calls Glenn to tell him to meet her at midnight,
Listen, Daddy, I've got a proposition for you.
where she's going to try to bring Freddy out of her dream like the hat. So Glenn falls asleep, but his mom wakes him up to tell him to go to bed. And even though she told him it's almost midnight, he goes back to sleep. Nancy's mom takes away her caffeine pills and coffee pot. So when she leaves, Nancy pulls out her backup coffee pot.
Stop drinking that damn coffee.
Maybe I should grab that bottle and veg out with you.
So Glenn's dad watches her change,
You shouldn't stare.
Bastard.
and then she tries to sneak out, but her mom's hitting the closet vodka, even though she's been very open about her alcoholism.
They say you've bottomed out when you can't remember the night before.
So she tries to call Glenn instead, but his parents are being dicks.
I don't care what you say.
The phone rings, but it's Freddy.
So she's dreaming?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe she's like dozing off or something, I don't know. She rips the phone out of the wall, but it rings again, and she wonders if she should answer it. She does, and it licks her. And then tells her he's gonna kill Glenn.
So she's dreaming.
Well, the phone licking her and her being able to summon coffee pots from under her bed would say yes, but the rest, not so much. Well, she's trying to get to Glenn before Freddy does, but her mom locks the doors. But she wouldn't have made it anyway, because Glenn gets sucked into his bed and liquefied. So maybe he had a secret blender under his bed.
Whenever I get nervous, I eat.
The ambulance shows up and they grab a gurney, when all they really needed was a bucket and maybe a few sponges. Nancy calls over to Glenn's house to talk to her dad, and she tells him her plan to get Freddy out of her dream, and he's like, yeah, whatever. But he does put his best man on it instead. Her dad's supposed to come over at 12:30.
That'll be exactly midnight.
So she sets up a crazy amount of booby traps. Like, I'm talking exploding light bulbs and hammers that fall from the ceiling and tripwires. She does all of this in like 20 minutes, completely ignoring that her mom is shit-canned and could wander into one. At least she got her to bed and out of her way. But Marge tells her that she's sorry she didn't admit to the murder sooner.
I was just trying to protect you.
Nancy goes into Dreamland, and since her plan is running for her life, she wears fuzzy slippers.
I'll get my pajamas on.
She finds a door for the high school's boiler room in her basement and goes to look for him, even though he's always found her no matter where she was. You'd think he'd want to take the home field advantage.
What's she doing?
She finds him and then immediately runs away from him right before the alarm goes off.
It worked like a charm.
So with seconds left to go, she tackles him.
What a brilliant tackle, and the fans go wild.
And brings him into the real world. She yells for her dad, but it takes her breaking 3 windows and screaming that the killer's in the house for this ace detective to go get her dad.
Get my dad, you asshole!
Maybe I better go tell the lieutenant.
Freddy chases her around the house, and she gets him down to the basement where she sets him on fire. Maybe this is where Lori got the idea for Michael.
I didn't.
You can figure your own shit out.
The cops finally show up due to the smoke, and there are footprints leading up to Marge's room. Nancy and her dad walk in to see Freddy on top of her on fire. Her dad puts him out with a blanket, and when he takes it off, it's just Marge, waving goodbye as she sinks into the void in her mattress.
Marge.
Hello to you too, Donald.
It seals back up, and Nancy tries to get her now.
I don't think you're crazy.
And her dad's like, "Sweetie, don't lay on that. Your dead mom's inside of there." Nancy tells her dad to leave the room, and he does. Not a very good policeman, or father.
Got no argument with that.
Freddy comes back, but she's like, "I know you're there, but I don't believe in you, so give me my mom and friends back." Guy I don't believe in. He then tries to kill her, but he turns into sparkles. And then she walks out of the bedroom door onto the porch with her mom, and sees Glenn, Rod, and Tina pull up to get her for school. She gets in the convertible and knows that they're in trouble, and Marge gets sucked through this tiny window in the door.
Hundreds of people a year get killed like that, honey.
The convertible drives off, and we just have to assume that they died. Again. So that was Nightmare on Elm Street. Now go to bed. I think there's some closet vodka calling my name.
You expect me to fall asleep after you tell me a story about a guy who kills you in your dreams?
Yep. Night.
Are you still watching?
Yeah, so?
Well, subscribe while you're still here.
Real easy, like your ass depended on it.
Now you can't mess up. A lot might depend on this.
9, 10, never sleep again.
That's enough.